What is up, guys? Wraec here with a new video, and today we are on a very special account actually. We are on the Pioneer server. If you have no idea what that is, definitely take a look at yesterday's video. We talked about the big leaks that happened yesterday, and well, today we got to actually show off some of the content on this server. Some of it was already leaked. We're giving you now some better details, and what I can show you today and what is pretty cool, we have access to Sinbad, Nara and Dundlinger all at plus 15 Supreme Plus. So very nice actually. That was provided to me by Farlight, and we got the green light to show some abilities, so we are going to make videos. We are starting off with Sinbad, but I will very soon make a video about Nara and Dundlinger, probably one more today and then one tomorrow. You can write down in the comments if you have any specific wishes, anything you want to see for Dundlinger and Nara, and I will gladly oblige and show it to you. There is a bit of PvP here as well, which is particularly important for Nara because she's more of a PvP unit, and for Dundlinger of course we can show some interesting teams as well, but we have really access to everything and we can upgrade everything to plus 15, so that works. Sinbad, finally Lightbearer hero, very cool headwear once again once you get him from the raid up when the season starts. I think it is when the season starts, I have no confirmation on that yet, but we will see. And he is a Lightbearer that I think, I'm not sure if he's going to be super meta, but he has interesting abilities. He is a debuffer. He has debuff skills. So not only does he deal some damage, but with his abilities Tracker's Instinct, he can also debuff the attack of an aggressive enemy and increase the damage taken of an enemy too. We will also go into gameplay because it looks rather weird, and I think it is way easier if you take a look at what he really does. We can even use an opportunity that we still have on the server that won't be available on the other server. This server has Ravage Realm still, and today we actually have Lightbearer Day, and he is available in here. We don't quite have the power to go through all of the boss phases, but we can do this one. He is right here, buffed of course by our Cassidy. We have a pretty general team here. We already have access to the new artifacts as well, which do look fairly cool, but that is a thing for another video. And we are going to try and see an attack. You will sometimes see him do some weird stuff. Mainly you will see that he jumps a bit out of the arena. This is part of his abilities. There he actually assesses the enemy, finds out what it is and provides those marks. You can see there is like a sword mark and a shield mark above this enemy, which means he has both the attacker and the guard mark. So he can provide two marks on this enemy at the same time. The attacker mark gives the enemy debuffs that affect the damage dealt, so he deals reduced damage through attack debuffs and other means. And the guard debuff makes him take more damage. So usually if you have a 6 versus 6 situation, this would lead to usually one hero having the guard mark and another hero having the hitter mark. In the situation where we have a boss fight, the boss actually gains both, making him a pretty valuable asset. We saw at the beginning of the last season buffs being a bit better than debuffs. Still, it is fairly interesting to what an extent he can debuff the enemy. Quite not enough, sadly, to keep our Cassidy and Rowan alive in this fight. But we will now go into the debuffs and see what he really does. He did the most damage here though, which is pretty promising. We didn't really have too many good light barriers. We had Corrin, we had Merrily, those were the most promising ones. Pretty standard though from the beginning. He has a lot more utility, and well, I'm not sure if we are going to see him like in PvP necessarily. He has some pretty interesting tools and might see use, especially in boss fights like Ravage Realm. Of course, maybe we get see something at the end of the next season as well, or in some specific boss fights. And definitely, I think we will see him in tower, in the Lightbearer tower, where he will definitely do very well. So, first of all, he deals normal attack damage, and his casting speed is affected by attack speed and haste. So, he can attack pretty swiftly if you go into those abilities and buff those. He lands as many hits as possible on the enemy for 3 seconds. Attack speed and haste, of course. 100 plus 15% damage per hit. So, I mean, we are kind of profiting here from attack speed and haste, while at the same time, ultimate power is once again a thing in this season, apparently. So, we could also buff this for pretty major attack boost. And then we have the final strike, at the end with another 240 or at the end 280% damage. So overall pretty high multipliers in his ult really. If we can get a lot of hits within those 3 seconds, if we have a lot of attack speed, that can really stack up, be quite interesting. The more interesting thing is though, you saw him jump right to the back. 6 seconds into the battle, we can see Sinbad walls behind his allies, which made him jump out of the arena. Assessing the enemy's strength, then we saw he marks one enemy as the hitter, which is the one that dealt the most damage, and the one taking the most damage as the guard. We also saw he can put both marks on the same enemy. In this situation, Rabbit Shroud was the boss. And then these marks last for 30 seconds, which is super long. The hitter gets attacked, 120% damage 4 times, very nice damage, and attack is reduced by 45%, so massive, massive, massive attack debuff. Then he attacks the guard, doing same damage 4 times. You will maybe have to take a look in the video again whether or not he does attack indeed 8 times on the same enemy. That is a bit hard to see, but we see increased damage taken by 25%. A bit of an anti-synergy here probably with Reinier. This should not stack together with Reinier, but maybe, just maybe, I mean, you can get this hero fairly easily in the future. I mean, we see it at the top, he is an A-tier hero, and he has a damage taken debuff. So he's probably the easiest way to get a damage taken debuff on an enemy in the future. So maybe this will make Reinier a little bit less important. And this might actually change the order in which we acquire Celestial and Hypogean heroes, given that, well, we really don't need the debuff from Reinier necessarily at the beginning anymore and can use Sinbad for that. We lose out on a bit of damage though. We lose out on a bit of damage. It's a bit less damage taken, it's a bit less faction buff or actually, unless you are really into light barriers, which probably you are not. You may use Lily May, which is a wilder hero. So in this situation, well, this might be a little bit of a problem. For some meta teams, certainly it would be. We can try that, by the way. Let's maybe put him in more of a meta team and see how that works out. Okay, this is pretty much the standard meta team for Nico Draken, just with Lily May, of course, as a damage dealer. Okay, Lily May annihilated this guy. That's insane how strong Lily May is. I mean, we were struggling a little bit before, I think. Well, let me skip to a boss where we actually got some damage in. Okay, we really destroyed our way up to endless mode with this team, which is a little bit crazy. I remember last season we couldn't reach that quite as easily. So yeah, well, now let's get a little bit of a taste for the damage numbers here. In this situation we use Reinier, of course, also to move Smokey to the front. If we change up the team and put Sinbad in instead of Reinier, we would have to compensate for that. And of course also we are getting a 4-piece Mauler aura here through Reinier. This would actually go down to a 3-piece aura for Smokey, Murky, Mikola and Fresto. So a little bit less of a faction buff as well, but we'll see how that turns out. Maybe, ooh, yeah, we are not quite tanking through everything right now, but we're a little bit low in terms of level as well. So that makes kind of sense, but we tanked it fairly well, so pretty good. Heal effect from Reinier is of course not to be underestimated. It is 8 billion, it is pretty close to the other guys, but still fairly interesting. So let's see if we can adjust this team to maybe make some use of it. We can't really put the energy on Smokey anymore. That wouldn't work. Maybe we go like this, put the energy on Sinbad. Let's see how that works out. Yeah. We still have, of course, our Lily May in there for some massive damage. Heal is still an option. We should still be able to heal. Yeah, we are still able to heal them all. Sinbad is there. We get the debuffs. Honestly, I think they are a little bit too high. Like, not in terms of the debuffs itself, but the marks here off screen should probably be moved a little bit downwards if somebody from Farlight or Lilith Games sees that. That would be pretty good. So far, so good. We are surviving. And in a second, we will also see the damage numbers from first look. It looks a little bit lower. Of course, with the smaller faction buff and most of our damage, I reckon, coming from Lily May, that is no wonder. He still did fairly decent damage, actually. They still did fairly decent damage overall. And this time around our full team survived, so we can feel the effect of those debuffs, really. Is he better? No, I guess not. I mean, we are seeing higher damage numbers on this one than we saw on this one. But still, a fairly decent option, really, if you don't want to spend into Reinier, because Reinier is fairly expensive at the beginning. Maybe this could be interesting. I would love to see some more testing on this, really. Some more testing on this could be fairly good. Let's look at the remainder of his skills before we end this. We have some general damage here, double damage, 210%, pretty nice, nothing too fancy. Attack speed works well with his ult, also very good for the hero focus for Legendary Plus. Then on Mythic Plus we get probably one of the longest skills we've ever had. Again, we play with the same mechanic that we saw in Tracker's Instinct, so the wording of hitter and guard from that part comes back here. And we get a strengthened debuffs on those units. If the hitter deals more normal attack damage, Sinbad will reduce their attack speed, and with skill damage, then we reduce the energy recovery efficiency. So two massive debuffs, really, attack speed by 60, energy recovery by 60%. Those are indeed really massive debuffs. For the guard, they depend more on healing from allies or themselves. Sinbad will reduce their vitality by 60. They rely more on damage mitigations. The debuff will reduce their fizz and magic dev by 30%. So a very nice debuff actually for the fizz and magic dev. The vitality part probably against bosses is pretty useless. And then we get updates or buffs to this. With +5 already we go to 80 and 80%. Massive buff actually, I think pretty good. One of the best +5 we saw yet. And then we have the +10 ability where we see that we get in 2 consecutive assessments, so 2 times in a row, which is pretty deep into the battle, really, because the mark lasts for 30 seconds and then we have the assessment later on, so we get the further 10% attack reduction. I wouldn't say it's like insanely good, but the extra 5% more damage taken, I think we surely want those. And then we have 40% attack reduction here as well. You do see this attack by an extra 40%, guards damage taken by an extra 20%, so really, the +15 seems very good as well. Like the +15 seems almost better as the +10, really. So maybe a hero you really want to upgrade to +15 overall, but I think we need more testing in the upcoming season for this. Still, very interesting hero. One of the heroes that I like definitely the most from the Lightbearer faction already. And as an A tier, pretty easy to acquire, even if you don't go for the rate up. You can just summon him in the wishlist. So let me know what you think about this hero. If you want to see the Nara and Dunlinger videos, then definitely stay tuned for that. I will post them pretty soon. Leave a subscription to not miss them. And with that, I wish you a great day. We'll see us in the next one.